Hi y'all, this is Losman here, and I'm going to be giving a quick little reaction video to Black Christmas. Now, this version of Black Christmas is directed by Sophia Takal and was written by Miss Takal as well as April Wolf and was produced by Blumhouse Productions. Now, this particular version of the movie is a kind of a reimagining of the story. It's not so much a remake and does tell generally the same story. You have a group of young women who are basically in their college sorority house, basically after exams are done, and they're gonna throw a party and participate in some activities before they go off on their various holiday events, and they are stalked by someone who is seeking them out for reasons that will be revealed in the story. Now, the movie didn't quite do as well as they had hoped. It basically broke even as far as we know, and it was savaged by the critics. It has a terrible IMDb score, and Rotten Tomatoes not so great, which is not unheard of for horror movies. But for some reason, this movie has really drawn some commentary, some critical opinions, especially from moviegoers and critics who seem to have issue with uh, probably the feminist bent of the story. But I'll explain in a moment what the problem I have with the movie, and it doesn't have to do with that. But now the movie, I will tell you this, has a great cast. You have Imogen Poots, who plays the main character, Riley. You have Elise Shannon, who plays her friend and fellow sorority sister, Chris. You have Lily Donahue, who plays Marty, and Brittany O'Grady, who plays Jessie. Now, those are women; those aren't guys, even though they have those kind of names. Now, the movie itself does share some similarities with the original and the remake. However, they do make a major change in who the villain is, which, well, I won't mention. But they do. There are some death scenes in the story that are pretty much similar, and they do have some of the same characters or character names as in the story. Now, if you watch the preview to the story, or you watch the previews to the movie, I know one of the problems I had with it was that the preview gave away quite a bit of the movie, and it does. It does reveal, you know, one of the major deaths in the story. It also kind of gives you a feel for who or what is behind the story, or the villain of the story, which I thought was kind of unnecessary. I mean, why are you? I mean, whoever made the preview for it really screwed up. I mean, you could easily create a good preview for a story without revealing pretty much the movie. Now, I will tell you this. My other problem with the movie was the title. I don't think that Black Friday was a title that they should have used. It mainly because I felt that the movie should have its own identity. Call it something else. Give it its own name. And from what I understand, the movie was originally going to be called Sisters, which, hey, I like that better. Or you know what? Give it. They could have come up with something Christmassy, but for whatever reason, they decided to go with Black Christmas, which I didn't really care for, but that's okay because you know what? I didn't make the movie. Now the pretty much one of the elements of the story which has caused a lot of viewers to complain is the fact that this is a movie that uses a very strong feminist minded script with emphasis on these young women fighting back and basically elements of like the Me Too movement. It does factor into the story, especially with the main character. Now, I had no problem with this. I actually thought that that was a good topical, situation to throw into the story you know, to give the young women something that would rankle whoever the villain is. Show that these women are activists and that they're basically standing up and supporting other women, and of course the bad guys or bad guy whoever's involved doesn't like that. And you know what, that would have been a good movie, that would have been a decent movie, and it would have been an interesting movie. Unfortunately, they decide the movie, well, I'll tell you this, the first 50 or so minutes of the movie good setup, good story. You introduce the major characters. You basically have one or two creative death scenes, which similar to the original movies, but pretty interesting. I mean, not too bad. And you create the tension. You create a good story. You get the everything in motion. It's just the last 20 to 30 minutes of the movie that kind of loses it for me. They introduce a plot element into the story which I thought was completely unnecessary and completely ruins the movie. I mean, I'm not going to say what it is, but I just felt like you could have told the story and told a good story, but you didn't need to put this. You didn't need to put that particular aspect of the story in there. I thought it was unnecessary, and it really dumbed the story down. Now, this is not an attack on the director or the writers. I'm just saying that I thought the movie would have worked better with that particular element of the story, and it could have been a decent story. I mean, definitely. I know the movie actually has found an audience with young women who actually enjoy the ending, which I don't have a problem with. The ending itself isn't too bad. It's just how they got there, which is the problems I had. Now, one of the things I will say about this movie, another complaint before I close off is a lot of people complain that the movie is PG-13. Now, I really didn't have a problem with that. You can actually tell a good story with a PG-13 rating. I mean, not everything has to be blood, guts, gory, extreme horror, rated R, but that's what a lot of fans wanted. If you're going to tell this redo Black Christmas, make it a rated R movie. But if you're going to make it a PG-13 movie, you know what? Come up with a script that actually terrifies you, scares you, and it can be done. It's not impossible. So, honestly, my assessment of the movie was that Black Christmas was a movie that could have had potential, and just kind of lost it with in the last 20 or 30 minutes of the movie with a point that I thought was completely absurd, pointless, and just didn't add to the story. I mean, it literally took away from what could have been a decent movie. So I will say this: I am not dissuading people from watching this movie. If you want to go watch it, go watch it. I recommend, get your own opinion. Or better, watch it, see for yourself. If you don't want to see it in the theaters, you can wait a few weeks or a few months, and it'll go out there on the streaming networks. And I'm sure people will still talk about it next year, and we'll see how it goes. But once again, this is the Losman. Later.